Hello everybody, welcome back. In this video, I'd like to share with you how I paint this commission piece. The collector who had previously commissioned another piece prior to this piece, and he specifically won a piece from one of the national park. And since I've been to most of the national parks in the US, I actually uh, went through a lot of the photo collections that I have over the years, and I narrowed down to six different photos. And here's the first one is from Zion National Park. I just like this piece. It's got a great sense of depth. It's got lots of green and the composition is. I like the just the feeling, that sense of depth in this piece. So I sent this. This is one of the piece, and then the second piece is also the from Zion as well. But this one is actually taken where in the narrow, where you could actually walk into the canyon, where there's really steep canyon on both sides. I just like the just the look and how small the amazing this place is. And then this piece, the third one is actually from Grand Canyon. It's just really vast. I love the composition, especially with the figures on the right, and a really great sense of scale. And so the fourth one is actually what's the other? This one is from Bryce National Park, and this place is just incredible. You just have to see it in person, and just love the color, the really strong color, great sense of depth, and it's just you got to see it in person. So I've been to this place and took a lot of photo. And then the fifth one is actually this one is also from the Arches National Park. Just another amazing place, and at the same time, this piece is a little different. The colors are a little different. I love how there's the foreground and the midground and the background. It's give and again it's great. Give me a great sense of depth. And then the last one is the also from Arches National Park. I love the just that color, the light and shadow, and so each one of the six photos has a different feel, and ultimately the collector decided to go with this piece. And from here, I basically started a very simple value study. The value study just kind of give me an idea where the dark tone, mid tone, and light tones are. It just helps me to get a general idea what the value is going to be. And then from the value study and using the reference photo, I did a color key, and this is the color key that I sent to the collector to get an approval first before I started painting. And I pushed the color a little bit more, and I make the shadows read a lot more. So the overall feel it's there, and once I get the collector's approval, then I started the painting process. And here we go on the actual painting process. The actual painting, I believe, is 12 by 16. So it's not a huge painting, but it's big enough. I start out with the line drawing. I sped up the drawing process about 300% just to so you guys get an idea of where I'm going with this. The whole idea of this drawing process is not to draw everything out. Again, it's just getting the big shapes where the big shapes are, and not a whole lot of detail. Just getting some of the landmarks, some of the shapes of the cliff of the mountains, just to make sure that they are somewhat accurate, and they don't have to be exact. But again, the drawing process is just to kind of give me an idea of where the big mass, the big shapes are gonna be. And then with start out with the background with the light tone. Again, this is the light blue sky background, and I like this to really have that cool color against the orange and red color of the cliff of the canyon. So, and looking at this, it may look kind of dark, and with watercolor, sometimes, oftentimes, it's when you first put it down because everything is light. There's no other colors yet, so it may look like it's really dark at this point, but it's actually when it dries, it's going to get a lot lighter. So in watercolor, sometimes when you put it down, and chances are when it looks right when you first put it down, chances are it may not be right. So it may be wrong. So once the first wash is down, I use a paper towel, a paper. I think I use some paper towel or napkins just to pick up some of the pigment, so I can get the light of the clouds. And so I could actually ignore that, but or I could just rub it out later. But I decided to just pick it up while it's wet, and then at this point it's all dry, and then I go back in with the slightly darker. So this would be the shadow of the cloud. So, and oftentimes it's much easier just to get that in there right now, and rather than put it in later. So again, it's just not. I mean, right now it looks dark, but once it's dry, it gets really much lighter. And then with those color of the that I put down for the canyon or for the cliff or the whatever mountain, um, you can see that it's going to be really strong color with the red, and actually even within that same color, I vary the temperature a little bit, and you can see the red. It's a little bit like it gets more orange toward the right, and then now to the left, it's actually a little bit more of a kind of magenta, like a cooler red. So in this, so I even that in this stage early on, I like to vary the temperature a little bit more, and within the same values. Again, I'm painting. All this is the light tone. So again, now it's the beginning of the midtone, which is actually it's the bright orange, and so you can see the comparison once you put the mid-tone down, which is I'm putting it down now. You could see the light tone. It's much lighter than what I initially put down. So here, with the orange and the red, you can see the temperature shift, and also I decided to push the value kind of the dark mid tone, and which is a lot cooler than the first few strokes that I put down. And you'll notice the way I put down my strokes. It's actually I'm not hesitant about putting down these strokes. It's just the way I think it's much easier if you just, especially with the big shapes, I don't fuss with the details. I just go in there with a huge brush and try to lay down those paint. And so when it comes to the smaller shapes, now it's this is the area that I have to be kind of careful and make even the smaller shapes that I play a much more important role at this point. So now it's the further you can see that it's much cooler and slightly darker compared to the washes that I put down on the right. But you can still see the really the shift in the temperature, and this actually going to make you if you have these changes in your painting, it's going to make them a lot more the subtleties a lot more interesting. And when you see these temperature shift, it just makes the painting a lot more exciting. And even within the shadow, there's a lot of shifting in the temperatures. And then the smaller shapes, now I have to be careful, and because they're further away, these shapes are a little bit smaller. and I have to be a little bit more accurate with the shapes, and also at the same time keeping the temperatures cooler. So I mean, painting it's just about it's always about comparison. It's about how cool something is against something next to it, and how and especially so right, it's so far away, and you don't, even those it's really a lot cooler. So once I have those smaller shapes established, and then it's easy for these smaller mid-tone shapes, and because the big shapes established, I just have to kind of put those smaller shapes, and it's easy to define those smaller shapes. And it's always important to even with the smaller shapes to have color shifting or temperature shift. So these smaller shapes plays a very important role because we need to in a painting we need to have a variety of shapes. We have to have big shapes. We have to have mid-tone shape, mid-size shapes, and big shapes. So if and now that with all the big shapes are down and the mid-tone is done, I'm beginning to put the next tone, which is the dark tone. And the dark tone, you'll see that once I put the dark tone in, you'll know like it will feel complete. We now begin to see the light tone and mid tone and dark tone. So um, even though the dark tone it does not play an important role. I mean, the shapes are not the biggest there. It's just, but it does serve the third value that I always look for in a painting. And then when you put down the marks and just be more uh, deliberate and don't try to control too much. It's just trying to get the feel of the I guess the shape of the mountain, some of the rock formations, and these are the shapes that can be very organic. And if you look at the reference, it's not. I'm not trying to copy what's there. I just look at that and kind of allow the smaller shapes to bring out the rock formation. And then here I'm putting up in a much warmer yellow glaze, so I can really enhance that much warmer because it's closer to us and really help push the color further back. So usually this is the stage where before I go in and start adding details, I like to have make sure that the color is accurate. This is the part where if the color's off, all the detail is not going to be that. It's not going to be that helpful. So, and by having a much warmer to the right of the composition, will actually push the distant canyons a lot further back. It will dramatically increase the what do you call that, the color, the temperature difference. Again, here it's just really taking the time to do the adding the details in, and this is the process that's going to take the longest. And again, the blocking typically take about, I would say, an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. But the polishing part is usually to take the longest. And like I said, it's not something that you could just finish in one setting. And I did this on multiple setting, and looking at the finished painting, you could see there are a lot more definitions in the clouds, the clouds that are close on the top. It's a lot bigger, the shape, and then as it goes back in space, it gets smaller and smaller, and also in the shifting in the temperature. So this really create that sense of perspective going back in space. And then, of course, the details on the yellow, orange, that is actually on the lower, on the right side of the composition. That is the center of interest. And then, of course, the secondary is the on the left, where you can see it, the canyons in the back. So a lot of the details will pay attention to those two areas, just to create the enough definition for the viewers. And I I think yeah. So this is about the whole process that it took me, and I forget how many hours that I put into this painting, but um, hopefully this will give you a good idea of how I paint this piece. So anyway, so this is it for this video. If you like this video, please share, like, and also feel free to leave a comment, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye bye.